Hi, my name is STÖK, and today we're going to do something different. A couple of months ago, I had the pleasure to sit down with my friend Miguel, or some of you know him as Fisher. If you haven't checked out his works, you can always check out this iDoor video that we did a while back. Anywho, so he asked me if I wanted to get on his show called the Bug Bounty Podcast. And I said yes. And I figured that I would share that with you. It's a raw, uncut version of me just talking about living in Bali, having endless summers, and still struggling with mental issues and mental health, and the importance of taking care of yourself. So I hope you like it. It's raw, it's uncut, and it's me. Enjoy.
Hey, you are listening to the Bug Bounty Podcast. I am your host, Fisher. In today's episode, we have one of the most recognized bug bounty hunters out there. His name is Frederick, and he goes by the STÖK handle. We talk about Bali's endless summers, mental health, bug bounties, and live events. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, we are live.
Perfect.
That's it. So, stock, not stock. It's probably STÖK, right?
I'm pretty close. It's STÖK.
STÖK. So, I remember we were on HackerOne headquarters one day, and you were basically sort of giving an explanation on how we should better use the handle, because most people just say stock, right?
Yeah, or STÖK.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just that it's not like a super common name, right?
No, it's not. I don't mind any of them, to be honest. I don't care if they say stock or stoke or stook or it doesn't matter to me. People know me by the name that I have anyway. So and as long as I know that somebody's talking to me, I'm happy. It's all about communication in the end, right? So what's your name? And I met hackers that had so complex handles that it was almost like impossible to pronounce. Take Andre for example, OXACB, right? Who says that? I rather live with, is it stoked? Yeah, stoked to meet you, buddy. I'm good with that.
I was thinking exactly the same, because Andre, if you don't know how to pronunciate OXACB, then you're like 0XACB, it's super weird. So you need to know basically how you say it. It's like the same thing as C-surf, I remember so many people still calling it like CSRF when you should just use C-surf.
Yeah, or take something as simple as SQL. Do you say SQL or do you say SQL?
SQL.
Right? So SQL Server or SQL injection or SQL injection, you never know. It's up to, I think it's up to the beholder in a way. Like the person that decides to say the word, it's up to him or her to pronounce it the way they like, as long as the other person understands it.
Yeah, exactly. So how did this handle basically come up with?
How it started? STÖK.
Yeah.
The Swedish word for stök is it's not directly translatable to English, but it's kind of a mixture between messy and chaos and ruckus and all this kind of stuff, and I originally I thought about starting a YouTube series that I called Stök och Trubbel, which was meant to be towards the Swedish market. And STÖK, which is kind of like mischief and chaos and everything, and trouble is trouble, right? So it was all about passing the hash and stealing passwords and showing people how you can do internal hacking on let's say on the corporate side. So it was primarily aimed to be against or towards blue teamers to understand how to protect themselves. And if you say something, I'm going to teach you some ruckus and mischief today, that kind of felt like a cool thing to do, and it just stuck with me. And then I started to write STÖK as my handle because nobody used that, and I claimed STÖK Frederick, which is STÖK, and my name, Frederick. That's how it is.
I found it interesting that you said that you wanted to like create that YouTube channel with like that subject slash purpose, but it's not really who you are anymore, right? Because like the way we see you is that you are like someone outgoing and fun and loving and all of those things. So we don't exactly think of you like chaos or something like that, or mischief. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. But, Gandhi was already taken, so I couldn't go for that. So, no, seriously. I think it kind of differs, though. I'm a loving, good vibes only kind of person, but it's not always been like this. I also have I have dark periods where I struggle with anxiety and everything that comes with living in the Nordic parts where it's dark 8 months of the year and pretty cold. So it kind of fitted at some time that, and I am a little bit unorganized. so it fits in some senses, but I'm going with it. I'm rolling with it. STÖK is cool, and it looks great. It's 4 characters, right? And the O with the 2 dots on it, perfect for graphical design. So I'm sticking with it.
That's true, but it's super hard for us, like the like the other people. I want to quote your handle like perfectly, and I don't really have the O with the 2 dots.
It's not in your vocabulary, so I don't blame you. There's no
Exactly.
pressure. There's no pressure in getting it right.
You know what I was thinking? Do you feel this? It's not really a pain. It's like just an interesting thing, which is when I'm talking about security in my uh, native language, which is Portuguese. I think we can do it like more or less easily, but there are some times when we are using so many technical terms that in a phrase it's like 9 out of 10 it's English words, and then one
Mhm.
of them it's Portuguese. And I was wondering, like in Swedish, do you feel like it's easy to talk about like security and technical stuff, or not really?
Not at all. I think it's really challenging. And to be honest, this is going to be the OSINT part, but I switched to English operational systems a couple of years ago, primarily
Hmm.
for the main function that if you're trying to, let's say that you're looking to find a tutorial, something that you don't understand. Let's say, for instance, you're using Premiere Pro or Photoshop and you want to do something and you want to, let's say, you want to freely transform a picture. So you want to change something, and you go to the part that says edit, and it says free transform. In Swedish, that would be omforma fritt, which is totally weird. And you can't Google for that because nobody has decided to do a tutorial on that in Swedish. So for me, I speak English for hours and hours every day, and all our TV shows in Sweden when I used to grow up were in English but with Swedish subtitles. Um, So I'm very used to it. We have some native music in Sweden, but most of the bands that you heard about, even ABBA or some black metal bands or like In Flames and such, they don't sing in Swedish, right? They sing in English, and so English is the language where I feel most comfortable talking about, let's say, things like fashion. I like to do that in English, and sustainability. I like to do that in English as well. And technology. It feels like an easier language for more people to understand.
Exactly, it feels easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you mentioned, the English subtitles. I see this in some particular countries. So, for example, in Portugal, we also have Portuguese subtitles on the movies and shows and so on. But there are countries, for example, Spain and France, which dub most of the shows and movies and so on. And what happens is that their English is definitely not as good as someone like with the same studies and same age and basically a similar education, because they're not exposed from an early age to actual English, and then when they try it, it's like it's not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And it also has to do with how comfortable you are to speak a language. I know when I moved to Bali a couple of years ago, and I saw all these people there that were speaking Balinese or a version of. Locally on the island, they speak Balinese, but most people speak Indonesian. And so rather than going for Balinese, I went for the language that is the bigger language when it comes to all the islands. It's over 17,000 islands, right? So you rather go for one that's not super local, so you go for the one that's bigger. And in the beginning, when it comes to languages, I'm not a polyglot in any kind of way, but I realized a good way to start communicating is to learn the different kind of languages. So I started to study Bahasa, which is Indonesian, and it all comes down to practice. Trying at least like baby steps. You're actually doing like babies talk. You're pointing at something that says cookie or or coffee or beer. You point at different kind of stuff, saying one thing, and they'll nod and give you whatever you want. Pay money. You'll use this different kind of basic words to communicate. And I think if you're in a situation where you're feeling pressure to communicate, that you feel like, okay, I'm really not able to communicate in a way, let's say in English, with people that are very, very good at English. You'll be very what's the name? Self aware.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Self-conscious, maybe,
Exactly.
about what you're talking about. And English is definitely not my first language. It's my second language. My primary language is Swedish. So sometimes I struggle finding the right words like I did right now. But communication in the end, it's so much simpler. It's if you connect things like body language, smile, there's micro movements in faces and eyes that sometimes just takes over a conversation. If you see two kids hanging out together that are from different regions or speak different languages, they'll play anyway. So it's just a grown-up thing to be worried about speaking that language or trying new things, maybe. So yeah, to answer your question, I totally agree. I think people that are grown up in different areas, if they are getting constantly just being bombarded with English, they will probably talk a little bit English. Yeah, to sum it up, yes. If you're watching TV series or listening to the radio and they're speaking English, you are probably more prone to speak English than you would do in another way. I would love to learn Spanish, though. Do you know Spanish? I know you're Portuguese. For a northerner like me, I can hear a little bit of difference, but I don't understand that it's such a big difference. Is it a big difference?
It's not a big difference. Like it's different enough for me not being comfortable, like for example writing, but I can like hold a bare conversation with someone who's speaking Spanish, depending on the dialect, because there are a few dialects in Spain which are like really hard. But the most common one, usually we Portuguese can at least understand. But it's interesting that sometimes the other way around is it's not that common. So, for example, like Spaniards have a little bit more of a hard time understanding us, which is funny. But to be honest, like our language, so I was telling this I don't know who, but it was on the last event who wanted to learn some language. Maybe it was Justin. But the thing is, like, if you learn something like Portuguese or Spain or Spanish or French or maybe even Italian, if you are like somewhat good at one of those, you'll probably have like an easy time picking up the other languages, or like sort of understanding little bits here and there, because like they're not the same and they're not like close, but they share things, so you can like understand some things basically.
Yeah.
So dude, back it up. You were in Bali, like living there?
Yeah, I was having the endless summers. It's the thing where I I went to a really dark place in the winter on in 2013, and I was like super depressed. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't handle the darkness. I need to do something with this. So I pitched the idea to my current employer that wouldn't it be great to send me to Bali for a proof of concept of remote working for 6 months. Because I was primarily working with Azure at the time, so I could work from anywhere. It didn't really matter. But I pitched the idea. It took me about maybe 3 or 4 months to have the correct pitch. A perfect pitch sometimes takes a lot of time, but that was a perfect pitch. And they liked the idea. They thought it was great. And they decided that, so Frederick's going to live in Bali from October to April. That's going to be great. And so I moved there. Sarah was done with her studies at that time. So we rented our house out and we left. And we lived in Bali for 6 months in Ubud. And I was working at this co-working place called Ubud, which was pretty amazing. And we were partaking in Google startups for entrepreneurs, and I had a lot of it was a really, really cool place because there was a lot of people from around the world that were living the digital nomadic life at that time, and they were trying to find a co-working space to work at. And a couple of guys called one of the founders, his name is Steve, and the other one is Peter. They found this place and just decided that if we provide good internet, a good place to stay, good conference rooms, AC if needed, people are going to come and hang out. And so I was one of those persons that just signed up for a membership, and I worked from there. 3 days out of the week, I worked from Ubud, and the rest of the time I traveled around the island on a motorbike with Sarah on the back and just adventured. And we did that for about 25 weekends, because that's the amount of weekends you have in half a year. So it's really, really, really cool.
Damn. That must have been like really awesome. I've seen Yasin was in Bali like for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he
Yeah.
also looked like he was having like the best time.
It's an amazing place if you want to go and hang out with other entrepreneurs or hackers or people. Now, when bug bounties is taking off, it's really, that's something that I would love to do. As soon as we get our store sorted out in a way that we can leave it for longer periods, we're going back. There's no mistakes there.
When you guys left, did you still like, because now you have like a house, right?
Yeah, I do. Had it back then too.
Ah, okay, awesome. So even if so, you guys left, but you still have that place over there.
You mean in Bali?
No, I mean in Sweden.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. So what we did is that we we packed everything we owned into boxes and put them in the garage, and then we rented the house out for 6 months to to a family that wanted to live there. And that way we were able to fund our living situation in Bali, because the rent that we charged back home, we just used that to pay for the house that we rented back in Bali.
Gotcha.
So it was really, really a successful deal for us. The only problem we had is that since we packed everything we owned, all our clothes and books and CDs and, the kind of stuff that you collected over the years, what we didn't know was that we had a little bit of a mouse infestation when we came back, and
Oh,
they had eaten and and lived in everything that we owned. So when we came home, we didn't really have anything. And since we had been living a very minimalistic life with only more or less living out of a couple of suitcases and bought the clothes that we needed at the time, we had the freshest of all restarts. It was like, okay, so everything we had is now more or less gone. My snowboarding clothes, my books, everything. You don't want to read a book that's full with mouse poo, right? So
yeah.
we just sent it all to the recycling plant and started over. And it was a very, very clean catharsis feeling that started from a clean slate. It was really cool, actually.
But you guys were like minimalistic back then, right? Already.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we were.
So I guess that when that happened, you probably became even more minimalistic.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds kind of weird to say that material things doesn't matter that much to me. They kind of do. I need my PC and my cameras, and I got a lot of like technological stuff to do the things that I do. I love technology, and I love to be as fluid as and efficient as possible. That means that I need to invest in some really nice hardware. And when I'm traveling, I love to have my noise canceling phones and headphones and that kind of stuff. But when otherwise, I don't care about stuff. I have like two really good Japanese knives that I really love. I always take those with me wherever I go. But the rest of the stuff I don't really care about.
Yeah, I feel like it really depends, like on like you said, on the things that you really value. So, for example, the headphones is a perfect example. I cannot travel with my noise canceling headphones, and at the same time, I think it's like you can live without some of your things, like for some time. But at least this is what I discovered: having your place, like. Your station, your bunker, your personal place that you know that you will return to when you are finished with traveling, and it has, the things that make you comfortable and more productive and so on. At least for me, when I discovered that back in 2014, when I came back from 2 years abroad, that was such a huge relief, because knowing that you have like, that sacred place that you respect and care and treat, you know what I mean?
I definitely know what I mean, and I'm going to turn all hippie shit on this, but because humans are made out of energy. We are all energy, and we are never ending. And energy can never disappear; it can only change form. And and when you are spending time around certain things, your energy is going to just, I don't know, stick to that. And and if you're in an area where you have some of your stuff that belongs to you, and over time they're going to pick up on your vibrancy in a way, and that's why it's also very hard for some people to let things go, because they are emotionally connected to these items. But I absolutely agree that as long as you don't clutter things up, if you have too much stuff, then all these stuff's gonna also start to pull energy from you or change your vibration, or whatever thing you got going on. But if you have a certain amount of things that you value very, very much, it's just going to be on the other end. It's going to be very productive for you, and it's going to be a very calm and healthy place for you to spend time in.
Exactly, exactly.
That was hippie shit, though.
No, I mean, it might be for some people, but, and to be honest, I'm not that invested in some of those things, but I definitely resonate with it. And for example, my girlfriend is now discovering like that side of things, and like it's getting more in touch with herself, and like doing more meditation, and trying out these new things. And definitely like that part of regarding energy, that's such a key thing, like in life. And when you discover that, especially when dealing with people, at least for me, that's something that changed my life, like how you approach people and how you connect with them, and how you sort of receive and distribute energy. Because even if you are feeling sometimes even if you are feeling not that good, instead of lashing out on people, if you just accept that you're not feeling that well, and really just accept that and move on and try to still connect with people. Or the other way around, like if you are happy and you have that positive vibes going on, just try to basically share that as much as possible to the other people, like try to uplift them, and things like that.
How stoic of you. Yeah.
No, because
I agree.
it
That is true. The rule of acceptance is something that it takes years and years and years to develop these kind of positive psychology tendencies in yourself. But as soon as you start to dig into that area and understanding that you are the creator of your own reality, you are the one that actually is in charge of all your emotions and thoughts and feelings, and then everything just becomes both extremely harder but also extremely simpler, because you realize that you are actually in total control and sometimes out of control, and accepting that is the
exactly,
key
that's okay.
to pure happiness.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something so important, and that people don't. I mean, especially in our community. I mean, we were talking about this before starting, like how so many people have the imposter syndrome, how many people break down, how many people like they start doubting themselves. They go through
Mhm.
these really dark and deep times where they have a very hard time, like. Leaving those places. And I feel that one of the reasons for that is that when you are so, like, we are so invested technical wise, when we are doing like bug bounties and so on, we can basically be at a computer for 16, 20 hours a day, and like literally do nothing else besides hacking and sleeping, or even not sleep. And if you do that for a very long period of time, you really, it's very easy to miss on that areas of life. And it's not like someone will exactly teach you that, unless you have like really good friends or some mentors. But the most common thing is really people either have a proactive approach and search for those things, or what ends up happening is like you fall into one of those dark places, and you either stay there or you try to do something about it. And that's when people start researching about self-development and how to beat depression and so on. So I don't know, I feel like it's definitely an area that's not not only people should invest, but also like the communities that foster, and even companies. I find it so weird that so many technological companies don't have a dedicated psychologist or a coach that can help people, not only when they break down, but the point is not letting people break down and enter in depression,
Yeah, I totally agree. But the thing is that I've been there, but it's probably 10 years ago since I would say that I woke up and just realized in one day that I'm saying no to everything. Whatever, I was working as a systems architect at the time, and I was working really, really hard. In different kind of projects, and when I got home, I just had some food. I was living with Sarah at the time, so I've been with her for a very, very long time. But I went home, I probably watched the TV series, fell asleep, did my computer stuff, back to work, blah blah blah. The same kind of routine, and I didn't really understand that I was in control of my thoughts. I didn't understand any of the kind of psychology that comes with feeling like you're not performing. What should I do with it? Or I'm feeling sad. What should I do with it? Or I didn't understand my feelings. I didn't understand anything. So I ended up in a situation where I actually got social anxiety based on the part that I said no to everything. I was afraid of everything. Going to the movies, I couldn't do that. I would panic. I would get panic attacks on the way there, start to sweat, and I was feeling nauseous and very, very much out of my comfort zone. If I was anything that I was doing that I wasn't in control of, I felt super, super not happy with. So I said no to everything. So you want to go to the movies? You want to meet these people? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do something else? And I would say no all the time. The only thing that made me do things were alcohol. So I would have a couple of drinks before doing something. Then it would be easier because that would just, that would loosen things up. But that turned into a very negative thing because I couldn't do shit without drinking. And I don't want to be that person that just has to drink to talk to people. So I was actually, to be honest, I was afraid of everything. And I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of being misunderstood. I was afraid of not being good enough. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of every single thing that you can think about. So of course I was laying on the bed one day or on the couch, and Sarah asked me about something that I used to love to do before, and I said, no, I can't do it. I really can't do it. I don't want to do it. But I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't because I got a panic attack just thinking about it. And that's the thing I realized: I can't say no to everything. I need to change my life. And from that day on, I started what you started to talk about. I started researching everything I could about the human mind and everything. And I got to a psychologist, and I walked through the door, and I explained to her my issues. I can't eat with people. I'm afraid of going to places. I got really nervous, and I explained what I didn't know then was a panic attack. I'm like, I'm losing, my heart is beating, and I'm passing out, and I don't know what's going on. I think I'm dying. And she's like, okay, you're type A classic social phobia. This is what you got. I'm like, what? What's that? I had no idea. And she's like, take these meds, see how it goes. You'll be back here in 2 weeks and we'll discuss it. And I got some kind of medication. The problem with that medication that I was on antidepressants and SSRIs or whatever. I can't remember the name of it for a long period after that. But the whole dialing process was pretty fucking terrible, because I would take one of those pills in the mornings, like, okay, let's go to work now, and then I will fall madly in love with the bus driver in the morning. And be like super euphoric. I'm like, oh, I love everyone, everything is so beautiful. But then at 3:00 I want to kill myself. So it was like super hard to dial that in. It was emotional tantrum until I found the right doses that worked for me. I haven't been on any kind of meds for the last, I would say, 7 years maybe. And that is primarily because I started to work with my own psychology, and I've been working really hard on getting where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So since you went through all of that, what would you recommend to someone who's like on that state, like on who is having social anxiety, or someone who's like depressed at this?
Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Don't keep it in. There's nobody's gonna judge you. I was so afraid of being judged. I was so ashamed of eating antidepressants. I was so everything felt wrong, but because I felt like I was losing, and I wasn't good enough. Like, why do I need to have depressants? Why can't I just be normal? The thing is that you don't really want to be normal. Normal people are boring people. Those are the ones that the great people, the trolls on Twitter. Those are the normal people, the people that never do anything. They just complain because their lives are miserable. And I decided that my life is not supposed to be miserable. And I'm the one that's in charge. I'm going to do the best of this situation, and I'm going to learn and study as much as possible. And I started to talk about it. And that was the key for me, to express my feelings, and then doing cognitive behavior therapy. Like I said, I was afraid of going to the movies, right? So I would just buy a lot of movie tickets and I would go to the movies, and I was standing outside the door like, I'm going to die. This is a 10 on level 1 to 10. The 10 is going to be like, okay, death is next. I'm not going to go in. And then I didn't go in. But I went to the theater, I got the popcorn, I was standing outside the door, and instead of saying, this is a terrible, you're so bad, you couldn't even get into the movies. You did all these preparations, but you never went in. I would instead celebrate that. Like, wow, you got all this way. That's great, man. You're awesome. We can go home now, and you can have the popcorns at home and watch the movies at home. It's going to be good. And I did that. And the next time I went back again, and then I was sitting in the front row, and after a few minutes, and I was feeling worried about it, I left. Because it's all about repetitive behavior and realizing that it's actually not that bad. It's all in your head. But the thought and the thing is that it's all in the head. It's you that are creating all these obstacles for yourself, and just trying to put those into words and talk to people about it helped me a lot. So I would say communication. Don't be ashamed. We all have these kind of small issues, and be open with it. Talk about it.
100%. Like what I usually say is that if you don't have like some sort of mental health issue, then you're probably not normal. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, who doesn't? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
So definitely talk with people, baby steps, and to be honest, get someone who is a professional. Like if you're not comfortable talking with your friends, that's okay, but get someone who study for lots of years, who knows what they are doing, and try to work it out. Because many people, like you mentioned, are afraid of taking those pills and those antidepressants. But what I think that people don't realize is that they are just some uh, they're just a way to help sort of correct your course of action, more specifically to correct some potential imbalances that you have on your brain. Like if you think about the molecular and the biology side of things, like some antidepressants, the only thing they do is they increase the receptors on your brain for some particular substances. So if that's the only thing that the pill does, then that's perfect. Like it's not an hallucinogenic drug. It's not like MDMA or something like that. No, it's just something that will help you get something. So, and you don't have to be ashamed or feel, sad that you have to take those things. It's just that maybe you just were born with that specific, deficiency, quote unquote. I mean, maybe you need more vitamin D or more vitamin B than some other people. And that might happen as well in your brain for some particular substances. Does that make sense?
Totally. No, totally agree. Totally agree. And for me, humbly, I would say that as soon as when I was feeling the way that I did, I wasn't taking care of myself. I've been a vegan for the last 7 years. I've been exercising. I've taught and practiced thousands of hours of yoga. There's been a lot of other stuff that I did in my life to change my life around, which means that my imbalances has now been balanced. And so I don't need the medication anymore. And I'm not the same person that I used to be. For that sense that I started to, experimenting with my diet. I took certain things out that didn't work for me. And I'm not saying that it works for everyone, but by simply removing sugars from my diet, that helped me a lot. And just trying to have for me, primarily a vegan diet worked very, very well. And that made my life way easier. It balanced me in a way. And then I ate all my vitamins. I ate shitloads of vitamins.
Makes perfect sense. I think people really need to invest that time and figure out, how they work best, and at least start doing that journey, because if you don't, then you might stumble upon those things like later in life, and then you realize that, oh shit, if I knew this like 20 years ago, I would have had so much more energy or so much more willpower to do some things. So it's like, dude, don't wait, just start trying those things out.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we got one time here. I don't care if you believe in reincarnation or whatever religion you have, but in my humble opinion, even if you believe in reincarnation, you got one time, this time around on this planet, in this lifetime. And we all spend so much time thinking what other people think about us. We spend a lot of time wanting to fit into this society, to be a part of this, because if we're not being functional and doing the right thing, we're going to be the outcasts. And you don't want to be the outcast. You want to fit in, because that's kind of what society teaches you. But society doesn't teach you to care for yourself mentally in a good way. And that's where a lot of these challenges come and rise. And with social media, you're using your phone, right? And you're checking out Instagram or whatever, and you'll see a curated version of everybody else's lives that seems so perfect and so magnificent. Because the pictures that we decide to post are the ones from the good parts in our lives, right? And you're starting to compare yourself to others, and you compare your outcome, and you compare everything, and you realize, that you compare everything from your own success to whatever kind of computer you have, or your phone or whatever. You watch reviews and you get all lost in this hunt for something else, when all it is that you should actually care only about one thing, and that's you and your well-being. And this is not in a narcissistic kind of egoistic way where me. It's not that. It's all about loving yourself and putting yourself first. Because if you do that, life's going to be easier for everybody around you, because you're going to be happier.
Exactly, dude. I've learned that also some years ago when I started, having my journey, my spiritual journey, and improving myself. And that's one of the first things that I learned. Exactly that. Uh, be selfish sometimes until you are like until you are better. Because if you are good, if you are on a good state of mind and with good health and so on, you can help people, like you can do better for the other people. But if you are down, if you are stressed, if you are not in a good state of mind, then you can't do anything else, and basically people will actually need to take care of you. So if you do the other thing, and if you are better, and if you are like selfish as you said, then you can give back much more easily.
Absolutely. And that's what I think. It's, for me personally, the end goal is to share the knowledge that I learn and share my adventure on this planet here, so others' life would be a little bit easier. And I'm not saying that in a way that to be some kind of like spiritual leader or anything, but if if I can if I can inspire somebody else to make their life easier in any kind of way, I'll go out of my comfort zone to do that, because there's people that done that for me, and I want to give that back.
Hmm. And that ends up like being one of the big reasons that you have your YouTube channel and you promote the hashtag bounty life, because not only you want to teach people, but also you want to inspire people. Basically, you are showing everyone what they can do if they apply themselves, if they work, if they get some good bounties in, if they collaborate. Basically, if they do that, they will maybe probably achieve a level like yours, where you travel around the world, companies pay you to go to some beautiful awesome city on the other side of the world to basically hack on them, and they will pay you tons of money. And it's like a dream life for many people, and you are doing it.
It's a dream life for me as well. But the thing is that I'm not doing it in a way to flex. It has nothing to do with flexing. It's just I want to show a part of my life, so I can be an inspiration for people, because I'm a strong believer of the laws of attraction, that whatever you put your mind into, you will achieve. And if you're looking at somebody else and doing something that you really, really want to do as well, and you say for yourself, that's for me. If you don't put any jealousy in it, and you just focus on the idea that, wow, that's like a menu, that's like something that I can just pick and choose from. These cool hackers do this kind of stuff. I want to do that too. What do I need to do to get there? Okay, I need to study these kind of things. I need to focus on that. And I need to put the hard work in. There's no handouts in bug bounties. Bug bounties is really just really hard work, to be honest. But when you get to a certain level and you do certain stuff and you get in contact with people and you start to collaborate and you create amazing things, then it just happens. Movement just happens. And you will realize that this thing can take you places where you never thought was possible before. And if I can be that single inspiration for somebody that didn't even know that this existed, then that's all what it's all about. Then I'm done. That's what I want to do. I want to inspire people to be better than I am, so they can inspire me, so I can be more inspired and do other things. I think it's giving back, kind of, in a way.
Yeah, it's like a feedback loop of positivity, basically, and it's
Yeah.
like a chain. Because that happens, like we end up motivating and uplifting and teaching each other's, like every time we do a live event, even if you are not feeling that well or not that excited or hyped, when you get to a specific event and you see every of your hacker friends and you start hanging out, you start, you know, exchanging ideas and feedback, and you're learning stuff and you're teaching stuff, and it's like you get even more uplifted, more excited, and then it's like when the good, not only the good things, but like it's when the critical issues really drop in, like every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it turns into this kind of weird feedback loop where somebody is starting to think about something, and the rest of the people around you are starting discussing that, and then you hear something or some pointer or some view that somebody knows, and it just accelerates, and then eventually, bam, it just hits, because it's the collaborative part of people being together. It can be any kind of discussion. Let's say that we were discussing chess or something else. We're talking about certain moves, or we're talking about, maybe, I don't know, if you go into the forest and you want to forage mushrooms, what's going to happen first? You can't see anything, but then you kind of get dialed into that sense of looking for a certain kind of mushroom, and then suddenly you will see them everywhere. It just has to do with focus, what you're looking for. And that's what's happening when a lot of hackers gets together and you start talking about stuff. That's, in my humble opinion, what actually is accelerates the process. You're starting to look at, you look for certain things together, and then just magic happens.
100%. It's like I was thinking that it's like sort of a hive mind, because we really just put all of our minds together, and at the same time, it's like building a puzzle like at 10 times the speed that you would if you were trying to do it. But the thing you were saying also, regarding that it happens, it's funny because people see the outcome, the results, the critical issues, the bounties raining, but really almost no one knows the hard work that is behind on the backstage. And I was thinking that, I was thinking like the first time we met, and you were telling me that basically the person who introduced you to bug bounties was Franz Rosen. And
Uh-huh.
Franz, he was not a security guy, he was just a developer, but he was probably a really good developer, and he started looking at security stuff, and probably he did the same thing, which was like a process of learning and investing time and researching and working, and eventually he became what we today know as one of the best, if not the best, bug bounty hunter out there.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And the funny thing is that you'll go to an event and you'll see Franz pop one of these amazing 50K kind of bugs, and we're like, oh man, that's so cool. How did he even do that? And then you realize that he spent 2 weeks on just that one thing. 2 weeks full on investment. And that just panned out to be this weird kind of thing that he's been working on for a very, very long time. And so everybody needs to understand that, sure, you can just stumble upon a golden goose, and then apparently you have an RC everywhere, like GoScript or whatever, that's going to pop everywhere. That happens, but most of the research that goes into these kind of events and hacking, especially in bounties, since bounties primarily are really, really hardened targets, it takes a lot of research and understanding and depth before things happen. It's not, and you can be really, you can be quite discouraged when you see tweets like, "Oh, I made 10K here, I made 8K there. People make a lot of money." Don't let that get into your head, because you don't know how much time those people work for that. You don't know how many years of experience they have. Uh, Everything just takes a lot of time, and if you're not able to do that tomorrow, don't be hard on yourself, because luck also plays a big role. Sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you're not, and sometimes you're hardworking, and sometimes you're not. Don't compare yourself.
Exactly. I think people really have, especially guys and girls and people who are hearing like this podcast to learn more about bug bounties and understand how they can be successful. Like you really have to be persistent, because you can be lucky. Like you can find a critical like in 5 minutes and you can get 10K like that.
Yeah,
But you can also do it for 1 month and get absolutely no result, and that doesn't mean that you aren't good or you aren't investing enough time. It just means that maybe you have to try different things, or you have to switch targets, or you have to learn more, because it's like the thing you were saying, that you don't see, you only see the positive or the best things. Like you go on Instagram and you only see the best moments, because it's what people put out there, right? And it's the same on
yeah,
Twitter, it's the same on Baltis. You only see the outcome, but you really don't see, for example, Albino Wax dropping his latest research, and you don't see like the months he spent, if not like a whole year, researching that particular topic, and
yeah.
you know getting those awesome things that no one even imagines how he comes up with. But it's definitely the case of dedication, persistence. It's not, I'm sure that he didn't find HTTP request smuggling by accident, but like by luck. No, it's dedication, it's persistence.
Oh yeah, he spent years on that, and or maybe just not on that topic, but I talked to James before about it, and he said, because there was before he released Turbo Intruder, I was like, I was doing a couple of race conditions, and I talked to him about that particular one, and he gave me the beta version of Turbo Intruder, and I said like, I'm fanboying out a bit, because the kind of research that you do is so fucking intense. Sorry, my French. And and he said, "Dude, you have to understand. This is my work. This is what I do. I'm getting paid to do this research, and I'm not under pressure of having to hunt. I'm not under pressure to do other things. This is what I do, and I go deep as I can go, for as many hours as I need. And that's the thing. Security researchers do that. That's a part of our brain, and we're wired that way. We're like bloodhounds. We don't stop when we smell it.
That's definitely what the best bug bounty hunters and researchers do, like 100%. And that's something that I first saw firsthand with OXCCB, because he came from, and he still has that CTF mindset, and many other researchers who do bug bounty and started with CTFs like Korbnik or TechnoGeek. They have that mindset of the bloodhound, which once they see something, they will not let it go. They will spend hours, days, they will not sleep until they pop that shell, or they get like that bug in, because that's exactly the thing that nobody else does. Like they go deep, they stay on target, they are focused, and basically if everyone did that, then well, they would have more success basically.
Yeah, but it is also very, very dangerous. And I don't mean in a dangerous for a company, but if you get that zoned in, I realized in the beginning that is also something that I did. I went really, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop focusing. I wanted to go deeper, deeper, deeper. I want to find that thing that I was working on. But I realized that if I focus more than 4 hours at a time, my brain is not as effective. So I need to have breaks, and I need 8 hours sleep, and I need regime and certain kind of things in my life to be a functional person. Because what's going to happen is that I'm going to burn out, and when I'm burnt out, I don't feel like doing anything at all that has to be with computers. So it needs to be a very nice balance there. I'm not saying that you should lose the scent. I'm saying that you should take it in bite sizes and give yourself a little bit of a healthy break from time to time, because that's going to help you in the long term and produce better results.
I agree, but I definitely see that it really depends from person and from researcher and researcher. Like I definitely agree with you. For example, myself, I also need to have my beauty princess like sleep. My sleep is like super precious to me, so I need to get my 8 hours in. I need to go to the gym, and then I put the hours in. But it's not the same for everyone. Like I was saying, Andre, he probably can stay up like all night until he gets that bug in. And even if I'm on the scent, I will probably go to bed still and then wake up at 6 a.m. and continue. And I feel that that's something that people also need to understand. And it's like you need to understand what works best for you and do it. Like you need to, as you say, like sometimes like pick the golden nuggets from each person and see what works out for you and then apply it.
Yeah, because you do you, and only you know you well enough to understand what's going on. So we're getting back to that thing again: self-care, self-love, self-understanding. And if these are new words to you, look them up. There's a lot of good self-help out there to study. But primarily, it's all about don't be overpressured. Personally, I haven't been hacking for the last 2 weeks at all. I look at burp and like, ugh, I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it, because I know that in a few days there's going to be a scope drop of the next target for the next live event, and it's going to be 2 weeks of me fully just investing day and night into that, and that's going to be 2 weeks leading up to the event. Then the event's going to be over. I'm going to have a little bit of a down period afterwards, because it's always when you've been like supercharging yourself towards something and then it's over, it's like, what happened? And and you have a couple of days off, and and you try to recoup during that period. So I'm currently I'm saving myself from doing any kind of hacking now, because I know that I'm going to be very, very invested in a few days.
Exactly. Dude, sometimes I just feel that the people who do the live events more regularly, it feels like you are a player on a team, like on a football team or something like that. And then like you have the preparation of the event, which usually is like a week and a half or 2 weeks. Then you go to the live event, which is like the match. And then after that you have like the rest period, and then like it's uh sort of like the off season, or like the time in between where you are like resting and maybe you investigate some stuff, and then like it starts over again. And like it's such a good cycle, actually. I love it.
I like it. That is definitely one of the perks being a part of the bounty circuit. So
Indeed.
yeah, it's fun.
Dude, you were talking about race conditions. Are you still in deep on that particular vulnerability type?
Not really. I'm half and half. The thing is that race conditions on the level where I'm at and the things that I'm playing with are really hard to replicate for triagers because they involve the need of having to spin up VPS servers really close and get as close as possible to the app. Primarily, if you're lucky to get in the same data center, that's a perk. And it's quite costly to spin up like a SSD drive based box with a lot of bandwidth going through to be able to do that one race, and it's quite an investment to do that. But once you get it to pop, it almost always pops. The challenge is for the triagers to redo that process, so it usually can take a very, very long time to get it sorted. So I'm currently investing more time in XXE research because it's more or less just putting a payload there and see if it works. It's just faster and it pays better. So yeah, I'm doing a little bit of both until I can figure out a way for me to, I don't know, I need to write a solution where a triager can just go to my server, press play to run the payload, and that's just going to be it.
Yeah, which sometimes you can't really do with race conditions, right?
Yeah, they are also very, they come and go in a way. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. There's a lot of trial and error in there because everything has to do with bandwidth, latency, and time.
But even if you have like a really good video, a proof of concept video, isn't that enough? Do triagers still need to actually replicate the bug?
Yeah. Yes.
Too bad. I mean, race conditions are really like a super interesting bug because, first of all, not that many people look for it, and then it's like one of those bugs that it impacts. It has a lot to do with logic, and you have to sort of distinguish if you have a race condition there, if actually, you know, if there's any impact or not, and it's one of those things that it can be like super impactful and a critical issue, and it can be like also a load thing. So I mean, if I had to choose, I would definitely go for the XXC because usually like if you get like remote file read or like RCE, it's probably better.
Pays better. That's sadly enough that's how it works. I don't do open source. I don't work for free. I try to share as much knowledge as I can on the internet to give back to the community. But I'd rather do something that has a nice monetization value for me. So yeah, I agree.
That makes sense. And that's why so many people, like, for example, on Verizon, they only look for SSRFs because, I mean, if you get 10K for an SSRF, then, like, exactly, why wouldn't you look for that? 100%.
Yeah, or 15K for a SQLi, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Dude, I still feel that Verizon sort of, I have a kind of love-hate relationship with their payout system. I mean, it's mostly love, to be honest, because they force other programs and other companies to raise the bar. Like, they were the first ones doing like the 50K challenge. And after that, you saw some other companies doing that, like Uber. And
Mm-hmm.
not only that, but their average payouts, they are so crazy. And if the other company, it's basically the thing is, if the other companies want us to hack on them, then they need to be at the same level in terms of payouts. So if I can get a 10K for an SSRF on Verizon, and I get 3K on this other company, then why would I hack on the other company and not on Verizon, right?
Because I need to invest the same amount of time. So yeah, I agree. No, it's a gig economy. So
Exactly.
whoever flexes the most money or has the best security team and is really responsive and is being nice to the researchers, and that's the program that that's the program I'm gonna work with. And I get it. There's a lot of people out there that are just copy pasting reports out of Burp or Nessus or whatever scanner they're using. That's just like, okay, you're missing this header, blah blah blah, or you're it's an insecure. You're missing SSL here, blah blah blah. That's going to be bad. That's not really the problem. That's actually a big problem, because if people keep submitting that, that's just going to saturate all the reports that are coming in. So usually it's like 98% of the reports that are being submitted or something, it's just crap reports copy pasted from scanners, which is uncool. If you don't know what you're doing, then don't report it. I did some shitty reporting in the beginning, but because I didn't know how it worked, right? We all do. But as soon as you learn what that impact and explaining impact and really, doing that in a way that's both creative and understanding, both for the company and the researcher, then you're golden, because your reporting needs to be really dialed in. Submit a video POC or a GIF or have a step-by-step. Submit your stuff. If you can have ready, set, go curl commands that people can just copy paste and see the result, that's even better. You need to prepare for the triager as easy as possible. It's like if you're making any kind of pitch for anything, if you're going to pitch a business, if you're going to pitch an idea, what you need to do is to explain in all details, submit your budget, everything that goes into your project, all the steps, so that people that's on the other side can say, I get this, I understand that, approved or denied. If you just submit one line and say this is broken, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Dude, I submitted so many shitty things on the beginning. Like, holy shit. I remember. Because the thing is, it's definitely my fault, but at the same time, I feel like it's fault of the companies, because in the beginning, I think that we don't see that as often now, which is the, hey, I just got $500 from submitting XYZ. And I remember in the beginning, so many people getting like $500 or $1,000 from missing SPF records or missing DKIM, shit like that. And I remember submitting like a couple of those on Bugcrowd, which were like immediately closed. They were actually closed like as informative or whatever the EQ equivalent is on Bugcrowd, but on HackerOne, my God, they were ruthless. It was like NA. And like,
Yeah.
I had no idea about signal and impact at that time. So when I started like actually doing bug bounty, when I looked at my profile, my signal was like -1. And then I was comparing like to the other normal people, and it was like signal 5, 6, 7. And I'm like, holy shit, what is this hole that I buried myself into? And and then but then the thing was, I said to myself, no, I will not create a new account. I have this handle. The handle is Fisher. This account is taken. I will do whatever it takes to reach like a positive signal and then an appropriate signal, which, to be honest, it's still not there. It's like 460 right now, and I need to have it at least at 5. But my God, what a journey it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to check my signal. What kind of signal do I have?
I think you are around 5.4, 5.6.
I don't know. Let's see. I'm currently at 5.73. Impact 19.96.
Nice. Those
It seems good.
stats.
numbers. But then again, I rarely submit lows, and it hasn't to do anything with that. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm only looking for crits, flex. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that since I only look for 2 or 3 classes, those tend to be like really high, and also since I'm doing like really weird infrastructure bugs, they also seem to end up in the high critical region. I still don't manage CSurf or XSS. I need to learn that, but I also want to go as deep as possible on these other things that I kind of understand the logic behind. Since I'm not a developer, working with all these other developer things, it's challenging for me. So I rather, use the 25 years of experience of infrastructure design to look for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course. And it's like the thing that I say all the times, which is you will find the bugs that you are looking for. So if you are looking for a cross-site scripting or a CSurf, then you will find those. But for example, like you were saying, if you are looking for race conditions or XXCs or weird behaviors, weird infrastructure stuff, then by default, those usually have more impact. So we'll get paid more. So it's like
Yeah.
ask, how can I do better? How can I get more money? It's like, dude, stop looking for the easy stuff that everyone is looking at. Like either focus on something or dedicate yourself on a particular vulnerability and distinguish yourself from like the majority and you'll be more successful.
Yeah, agreed. And when it comes to things like XXEs, I probably put about, I don't know, maybe 20 XXEs in or something over the years, but they are never the same. I've never been able to reuse the same kind of payload. They are always different. But you will get the scent. You'll get the initial scent of what's going on. And then you need to spend a lot of time smuggling or playing around and find quirky ways to exploit it. Because people's, if you're just running a scanner, it's going to hit. But you want to bypass the scanner things and you want to go deep and you want to find the weird stuff. And that's where the tinkering and the hacking and testing and fuzzing comes in play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so many people, especially in terms of cross-site scripting, which is, it's also a vulnerability that I have a love-hate relationship because I feel that so many people uh, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, so many people look for that, and literally the only thing they do is like copy pasting the same payload in all of the fields, in everywhere. They run burp or another scanner, they'll get some hits, whatever. They'll make some quick, easy bugs. Awesome, they will help the companies, whatever. But the thing is, uh, if you actually want to take that to the next level in cross-site scripting or any other type of bug which you need to have some sort of payload, so for example, XXE, you need to adjust that payload to the target. And that's something that I remember Ben Nahemsek saying on a bug bounty tip somewhere, which was he would look for a cross-site scripting issue, but before actually trying payloads, he would check the technologies that are being used. Like, are they using Angular? Are they using Mustache? Are they using some sort of client side template thing or server side template thing? And he would basically adapt the payload he was using to the web application that he was testing, because like it doesn't make sense to have a payload for one technology that doesn't affect like one which is completely different. So you have to be aware of that.
It could be if it's a polyglot, but I get the whole idea. Let's say that a host is running Windows. Why would you try to get Etsy password? That wouldn't work, right? So it's all about understanding what you're doing, but I'm definitely an advocate for fuzzing. I will fuss things until they break, and just primarily because I like to look at responses and error messages that come in, and it's not a very popular things to do, but some of the things that I've found are primarily based upon getting weird results back and then building from that.
For sure, dude. Some of the best bugs that I've ever seen were the result of weird things. Like one of the first ones that come to mind is the null boy from Sam ZLZ, and like
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't fuzzing like in an automated way. I think that that's something he does, which is just looking for weird things like manually. And when he discovered that particular behavior, like holy shit, that was such a crazy bug and such a crazy payout as well. So
Yeah, super cool, super cool.
crazy shit. But getting back to the thing that you were talking about reporting, that's definitely one of the reasons that I would like to be a triager at some point uh, would be to confirm even more the suspicions that I have about how many reports are actually shitty, which, as you said, they are probably like 98%. And I agree, if they're not
I made that. I made that up though, so there's no reference going in that.
I 100% believe that I mean, maybe not 98%, but maybe, I don't know, like at least 80% of the reports, I am sure that they are shit, like 100%. um
High percentile.
yeah. And the thing you were saying about reporting is, uh I see so many people doing reports which aren't that good. They aren't. If you want to maximize the chances of having a huge bounty, of having a better relationship with the company and the client and the triager, and basically being better as a bug bounty researcher, or like as someone who is technical, is communicating well. So like you were saying, have a video proof of concept, have a step by step, try to automate it with a Python script or a Bash script, whatever. And one thing that people really overlook is like, dude, try to write in proper English, like use capitalization. If you're not a native speaker, that's
Get Grammarly.
okay. Exactly. Get Grammarly. I mean, not Grammarly because I don't like them, and many people don't like them, but
any
something
kind,
like that.
any kind of, any kind of spell checker.
Exactly, a spell checker. Like those things are like simple things, but when you compound all of those, they make you stand out. Like if I was a triager and I had to read a report which was well structured, it had some paragraphs in between. It had a good step by step, had a proof of concept with a video and so on. Like even if I had the same bug but with a shitty report, then I will definitely pay much more attention and give much more credibility to the first proper report than the other one. And if you are a triager and you are handling like 200 reports a day, then you will really stand out.
I agree, but the thing is that what you're competing with is somebody. Let's say you did that. You did the whole amazing kind of thing. You have the video, you have the POC, you have everything's perfectly lined up. You even have a story explaining how it works, how you found it, and what's the result of this whole thing. And then the next report comes in and say it's broken. Run SQL map here. It's the same issue, right? But the other one was submitted 2 minutes before you, and you're like dupe. So yeah, it's always it's the thin line. Both are valid in their own ways because it's the system works that way. That first reporter in gets the loot. But I agree with you. I would love for bounty programs to, in a way, maybe pay bonuses for well-written reports, even though they dupe out, or find any other way for it, like people that are willing to invest time and help their researchers out, than just copy pasting payloads and saying this is broken.
Yeah, I feel that that's really on the side of the companies, like, to do that, basically, not the platforms themselves. Well, which is a pity, but it's really hard to enforce. But I was thinking that, if you are really invested and you want to pursue a career in bug bounty, something that you can use is Franz Rosen template generator. Do you remember that?
Yeah, bounty, please.
Yeah, and Bounty Please. Those are like two tools that you should have them at your hand, and definitely use them, especially for those sort of quick bugs. So, for example, cross-site scripting. You don't want to be writing that same report all the time. Like, you want to have a template which is easy to use and reproduce, and basically you won't be spending that much time doing it, and you won't, as you said, you won't lose the opportunity of having that report in, because someone just submitted, like, hey, bug here, payload this.
No, I totally agree. And Franz does that very well. And then, so if you can use any of his items, it will be easy for you to, do that, write in the stuff, and it's going to look great. Easy.
I agree. All right, my dude, this was fucking awesome. To be honest, I would love to cover even more stuff, but I definitely feel that we can do that some other time. This was
Absolutely
actually like decently long. I hope that lots of people reach this time in the podcast, because this last bit was when we were talking about bug bounties, which I'm sure that like 80% of the people, that's what they want to hear. But hey, the rest is also super valuable. So
yeah, good stuff. It was a great talk, and I'll see you around.
All right, my dude, thank you, and see you soon. Cheers. Hey, thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, hit the subscribe or the follow button. I'll see you soon.